Welcome back to Eagle TV Recaps, where today I will be featuring a 2008 action thriller film called Terra Nova. Spoilers are ahead, so please be cautious and stay alert. On a deserted island's chilly hills, Gillen searches for a safe camping spot. He walks for miles until he slips and falls into a freezing river. However, after floating for a while, he manages to climb out and continues his journey. Exhausted, he rests against a large rock and recalls how it all began. Gillen is serving a life sentence in jail for assassinating 6 men. One afternoon, he is summoned by the prison governor, who inquires about his dreams. This scenario is not exclusive to Gillen, as other prisoners are also being called to the governor's office and asked the same question. Moryak desires to witness the sea. Yakud longs to observe the war against China. Obizianka remains silent. Obizian aspires to work in the prison and become a governor. Tolia wishes to monitor the progress of the space station, and Saipa yearns to see women again. However, Gillen's response is not revealed. The governor informs them that they have been chosen to be transferred to a penal colony, and soon after, all the prisoners are loaded onto a ship. Similar to their previous confinement, the prisoners are divided into groups and assigned cells, with Obizian assuming a leadership role and even resorting to killing someone for a better bed. As the hatch is sealed and the boat sets sail, the prisoners panic, fearing that they have been deceived and left to perish at sea. Amidst the growing violence, Gillen recalls a conversation he had with Saipa while in prison. Saipa, who suffers from severe mental issues, would often draw on walls and speak incoherently. However, on that particular day, he mentioned that heaven and hell were at full capacity, and a third purgatory-like place was being prepared for individuals like them. Gillen dismissed it as his usual nonsense, but now he's starting to recognize its value. After a period, everyone settles down and attempts to pass the time by chatting and eating during the journey. However, in the midst of the voyage, a gang escapes from one of the cells in search of their comrade. Initially, Obizian feigns negotiation, but ultimately kills the man they're seeking, triggering a riot. Prisoners on both sides begin assaulting and killing each other through the bars, except for Steri, an elderly man who remains behind, engaged in prayer. The altercation is short-lived as guards swiftly intervene. After issuing a warning shot to quell the chaos, they deploy a sleeping gas grenade to render everyone unconscious. Eventually, they reach a deserted island where the prisoners are handcuffed and assigned numbers, then left on the beach to listen to Mr. Olafsson and Marta, the heads of the Terra Nova project. With the death penalty abolished worldwide, prisons have struggled to accommodate the increasing number of criminals. Hence, the Russian government has provided this land for the project, which is funded by international organizations. From this day forward, the prisoners are regarded as colonists under the project's protection, with all necessary provisions, including a 3-month food supply, provided for their survival. They are constantly monitored by a satellite, and communication buoys are positioned around the area. If they need anything, they can approach one of the buoys, press the red button, and state their request. A green light indicates that their plea has been accepted. Displeased with the constant surveillance, Obizian expresses his protest by hurling a large rock, but the guards promptly subdue him with warning shots. Marta clarifies that the buoys can also be used to request departure from the project by stating their name and reason for leaving. If they disobey, they will be sent back to prison. By placing the buoys in the sea instead of on the beach, they ensure that individuals will think twice before taking the risk of boarding a boat. Before departing, the guards drop a set of keys onto the sand, explaining that each key corresponds to a numbered handcuff. The prisoners rush towards the keys, engaging in fights over them. However, Gillen and Saipa opt for a safer approach, only picking up the keys dropped by others. Steri also chooses to remain behind, observing as a gang forms a protective barrier around the keys, preventing rivals from accessing them. Another group seizes the opportunity to retrieve weapons from the crates left by the guards and launches an attack on the crowd. Eventually, Ali's gang gains control of the situation. Ali acquires a jacket and decent shoes for himself and Steri. He then selects a man to send out on the boat. However, as soon as he grabs someone, the group seizes the moment to launch another assault, reigniting the fight. Numerous men perish in the chaos. Moryak kills Ali with a rock, Obizian kills Steri with another rock, and the 3 men who attempt to reach the buoy by boat drown in the sea. The remaining prisoners gather in the warehouse and begin distributing the supplies. Obizian takes advantage of the tools discovered to forcibly remove his handcuffs. Gillen packs essential items into a bag and secures a jacket while listening to Saipa express doubts about the 3-month food supply. Determined to survive and find a way off the island, Gillen sets off alone, taking us back to the story's beginning. Gillen explores the island until he discovers a snow-free area with a rocky formation that offers some shelter. He settles there, gazing at a hidden picture of his family that he kept in his prison uniform. Overwhelmed by longing for his loved ones, he falls asleep with tears in his eyes. Later on, he awakens to the sound of squealing. It turns out that the supplies were infested with rodents, and they are now devouring his food and bag. When the rain begins, Jilin seeks refuge under the previously spotted rock formation, starting a fire for warmth and boiling water. Once the rain subsides, he manages to catch a bird and roasts it over the fire, attracting the attention of Saipa. While engaging in conversation, Saipa attempts to steal Jilin's knife, but Jilin notices and retrieves it. Saipa offers salt he had with him and his assistance in exchange for some meat, an offer which Jilin accepts. Saipa then goes to gather more wood and notices the family picture hanging on the rocks, prompting him to blow a kiss at Jilin's wife. Subsequently, they share the roasted bird, and after finishing their meal, Saipa walks to the cliff's edge. He confesses his fear of jumping and questions Jilin about his own reluctance to die. Jilin explains that his family is deceased, and he wishes to be buried alongside them, which is impossible if he dies on the island. The two men fall asleep, and upon waking up, Jilin discovers that Saipa has stolen the picture to use for his debauchery. Filled with anger, Jilin confronts Saipa and physically assaults him before pushing him off the cliff. However, Saipa survives by landing on a hill below instead of falling into the ocean. Despite their disagreement, the two continue their journey together, exploring the island. Saipa entertains himself with the debris he finds in the water, while Jilin attempts to fish, but only comes across a disturbing aquatic centipede that terrifies Saipa. While exploring, Jilin is astonished to stumble upon a portion of a seaplane embedded among the rocks. Further exploration up the hill reveals the entire plane, instilling a glimmer of hope in Jilin, as he used to be a pilot and believes he could fly it. However, the plane is too large for just the two of them to move, so they return to their shelter for now. Jilin starts a fire using matches he obtained from the warehouse, but they emit a highly toxic smoke. He distances himself from the fire and drags the sleeping Saipa away, who initially remains unresponsive. It takes several shakes from Jilin to finally revive Saipa, but Saipa's speech remains nonsensical, making Jilin realize that the freezing temperatures could claim their lives at any moment. Both men agree to return to the base in an attempt to steal some coal. Life at the base has been challenging for everyone, with Obizien and his gang assuming control and maintaining a routine while rationing the supplies. Obizien even demands to be addressed as the governor. However, they confine anyone outside their group to the barracks, only permitting them to take walks in a confined area, resembling a real prison, while being berated by Estonets from the watchtower. When they are summoned back, they must run because the last person to arrive is killed and used as food later. Jilin and Saipa manage to reach the cold storage and find remnants of a fire. Exhausted from their long journey, they succumb to sleep next to the fire, battling the freezing cold. Saipa abruptly wakes up upon hearing noises approaching. The gang is returning with their newest captive to roast. He quickly hides behind a rock, but Jilin is still exposed. Saipa bravely emerges to rescue Jilin, but is unable to act swiftly enough, and Obizien's men discover and capture them. They are taken back to the base, where Obizien contemplates their punishment for absconding with supplies upon arrival. Yakut tries to remind them of his allegiance during the ship altercation, resulting in Estonets insulting him for interfering. In response, Yakut strikes Estonets, prompting the entire gang to retaliate, securing Yakut a place in the barracks alongside Jilin and Saipa. They wander around for a while, and when Estonets announces it is time to return, Jilin remains behind. However, Saipa returns for him and pulls him inside. They can only watch helplessly as the last remaining man is captured and bound to a pole, pleading for water as his final wish. Touched by his plea, Saipa compassionately brings a cup of water to the man's lips before he is killed. Later, as the group prepares to sleep, they engage in a discussion about the potential of rebelling. Uncertain of the risks involved, they contemplate whether it's worth attempting. However, Shram manages to convince them that it is indeed worth trying. The following morning, Tolia demonstrates to Obizienkat the secret trap he has set in his workshop to catch potential thieves. After their daily walk, Estonets attempts to herd them back inside for their usual game, but only 2 men comply, while the rest stand together. Yakut hurls a rock at Estonets to silence him. Jilin approaches Obizien and proposes a deal. If Obizien allows them to go to the boy and request food, Jilin will disclose the location of the plane he discovered. Obizien accepts the offer and opens the gate to release them. As Tolia, Jilin, and 2 other men head out on the boat, Obizien inquires about Jilin's background from his men and learns that Jilin was a pilot, his family perished in a plane crash, and he was imprisoned for murdering flight dispatchers at the airport with a rifle. The crime was classified as murder in a state of severe emotional agitation, leading Obizien to conclude that Jilin carries a guilty conscience. Once the boat is a sufficient distance away, Obizien orders the group to return to the barracks, reneging on their agreement. Yakut attempts to confront them, but is swiftly killed. Obezian seizes another man and declares that the game is back on. Aware of the armed nature of Obezian's men, the group can only flee to the barracks, as engaging in a fight would be ill-advised. Meanwhile, at sea, one of the men falls off the boat but is rescued in the nick of time. Tolia reaches the boy and requests assistance, but it is discovered to be broken, rendering their tools useless. They return to the shore, where Jilin assures Obezian that food is on its way. However, Obezian remains skeptical due to the absence of a green confirmation light. Tolia reminds him about the existence of the plane, but Obezian doubts its truthfulness. Nonetheless, Obezianka imitates the movements of an airplane, distracting Obezian, allowing Tolia to approach from behind and kill him. The rest of their gang is killed by two other members, Amirbek and Arjanov, who witness Estonitz escaping before they can capture him. They turn to Jilin for guidance, and he advises them to release the men from the barracks, assuring them that food is on its way, and the broken light prevented them from seeing it. Although skeptical, the men point out the surplus of bodies that can be used as a food source later. However, Tolia suggests burying the bodies instead. Jilin reminds them about the plane, which finally convinces Amirbek and Arzanov to agree. The prisoners are freed, with the understanding that they will wait a few days for the arrival of food and refrain from resorting to cannibalism. Cooperation and calmness are emphasized. A group will also be dispatched to rescue the plane, which will be housed in a hangar and gradually repaired for their eventual escape. Suddenly, Saipa interrupts their plans, asserting the absence of a satellite while crafting an SOS message in the sand using 3 bodies. Later on, Estomets returns to the base. In accordance with the new rules promoting peace, they decide to temporarily overlook his actions and share their food with him. Jilin leads a group of men to the plane, and their spirits are lifted when they witness the veracity of his claims. Together, they disassemble the plane for easier transport and carry the pieces back to the base. Eventually, Marta arrives on the island accompanied by a group of guards. They employ gas to keep the men at bay, but Jilin is allowed to approach Marta and discuss their list of requests. Marta expresses confusion regarding their gas demand, prompting Jilin to explain its intended use for the generators, which are designed to be wind-powered but are ineffective during the polar night. In reality, they require the gas for the plane. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Jilin inquires why Saipa's SOS message went unanswered, to which Marta clarifies that their satellite functions based on infrared detection, allowing them to locate heat sources but not decipher written words. She also inquires about the activities of people who were far from the base a few days ago, and he informs her that they were fishing. However, they doubt his claim due to the absence of fish in the area. To deceive them once again, he fabricates a story about consuming centipede-like creatures, which shocks her. Their curiosity extends to the number of surviving colonists from the original 206, which raises suspicions for Jilin since they should be able to determine that using their satellite. He states that 87 individuals remain, many of whom are sick, yet none of them wish to abandon the project and return to prison. Before Jilin departs, Marta grants him the right to make a personal request. He hands her a few sheets of paper, asking for the welfare of the group. Once the guards have delivered the new supplies and departed, Jilin and his men test the gas in the hidden plane inside the hangar and rejoice in its functionality. Subsequently, they witness the arrival of a new group of American prisoners as the guards and Marta leave the island. This group also has a leader, a large man whom Jilin attempts to shake hands with. However, the man refuses the gesture and instead strikes Jilin, sparking a fierce fight between the two factions. The encounter becomes brutal, with no hesitation to kill. Saipa takes Jilin to the workshop to hide, while one of the Americans attempts to pursue them, but falls into Tolia's trap and perishes instantly. Arjanov confronts the American leader but is overpowered. Just as the leader is about to deliver a fatal blow, Amirbek intervenes and kills him, amidst the buildings around them catching fire. The heads of the project observe the chaos unfold, realizing that the situation is now beyond control, and with over 40% of the colony eliminated, Marta contacts the central office and is instructed to proceed with Code Naked Island. This prompts a group of guards to arrive on the island and execute the remaining prisoners, while Marta burns Jilin's letters. Fortunately, a few men manage to survive by hiding in the mountains or the hangar, including Jilin, Saipa, Arzanov, and Tolia. Together, they push the plane out, but as they are about to board, Saipa bids them farewell and runs towards the hills, ready to jump into the ocean without fear. The remaining trio boards the plane, and Jilin successfully takes off. Despite being targeted by the guards' gunfire, his two companions lose their lives, but Jilin manages to evade the bullets and flies towards his newfound freedom.